5 to 7 minute time frame, a short history of Halloween. Arlinda had always had fun with Halloween holiday, and she would like to share a little of its history with us today. Help me welcome Arlinda Smith with a short history of Halloween. A short history of Halloween, Ms. Arlinda Smith.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and of course our most honored guests. Tell me, do zombies eat popcorn with their fingers? Who has an answer for me? Zombies eat popcorn with their fingers.
No.
No,
They eat fingers with the
They
popcorn.
eat brains.
Well, it's no, they eat the fingers separately. Halloween is considered a fun day for children and for adults here in the USA, but it has its roots in ancient religious folklore. Children and adults enjoy this holiday with funny costumes like mine, candy, and parties. But some countries observe this time as a remembrance of departed loved ones and religious saints. I will break the history of Halloween into 3 parts today. First, I will talk to you about the Celts, then why Halloween was considered magical, and then a little bit about the Romans and Christianity today. First, let's look at the Celts. Around 2,000 years ago, the Celts had a festival celebrating the end of their year. Their new year was November 1st, and the festival was pronounced Samhain, S-O-W-E-N. That's how it was pronounced, Samhain. The new year signaled the end of the summer, and the harvest season started a long, hard winter. It often caused the death of many animals and people. And so at this time of the year, many of the weaker animals were slaughtered because they probably would not survive that harsh, cold winter anyway. The cold winter signified death to the Celts. They believed the night before Halloween Eve, a portal opened, and spirits, both good and bad, came through that portal to mingle among the living. Some of the spirits were thought to possess people, cause trouble, ruin crops, or search to the passage of an afterlife. What do you call someone who puts poison into their shredded wheat? Someone who puts poison into their shredded wheat. What are they called? Anybody?
Dad?
A serial killer. A serial killer. Halloween, or Samhain, was considered a magical holiday. Some say the spirits were unleashed, and those who had died that year, and they were offered food and drink, and left to either aid the spirits or maybe to chase them away. Others say the Celts dressed up in outlandish costumes and roamed the neighborhoods, making noise to scare all the spirits away. Many thought they could predict the future and communicate with the dead. Some think the structured life of the Celts were abandoned, and people did unusual things at this time. Things like moving horses into different fields, moving gates and fences to different places, women dressed as men and men dressed as women, and other tricks that are now associated with Halloween. Others believe the Celts honored and celebrated and feasted their dead during Samhain. There was always a sacred bonfire lit in the center of town, and the home fires were extinguished for maybe 1 or 2 reasons. One was to scare away the spirits. They wouldn't notice them if their home fires weren't lit. Or another reason, perhaps, was because they wanted to take some of that sacred bonfire ember and start their own home fires. after the celebration. Fortunes were told and marked stones were thrown into that fire. So that after the fire burned out, people looked for their stones in the fire, embers. And if their stones weren't there, it meant they were going to die that following year. Fairies dressed as beggars and went door to door begging for food. And those beggars were rewarded, and those who did not give food to the fairies were punished. This is probably the first practice of trick or treat. Hey, I've got a great tip for you guys. A great place to look for Halloween costumes is the discounthalloween.com. Discounthalloween.com, and I went to that site, and it's true. They're very, very low prices for costumes. So, how does a witch tell time? How does a witch tell time? Anybody?
I think we're going to find out.
She looks at her witch watch. The Romans and Christians also had an influence on Halloween. In the 1st century AD, the Romans had taken over the Celtic lands. Two festivals were celebrated the same time as Samhain. One was the day the Romans honored the dead. The second was for Panoma, the Roman goddess of trees and fruit. Panoma's symbol was an apple. And these two festivals were combined with Samhain. They were combined with Samhain. Then over the next several hundred years, Christianity spread to the Celtic Romans, but the festival of Samhain was still celebrated. And the Pope designated May 13th as All Saints' Day to honor the dead and martyrs and to take away the attention from the celebration of Samhain. Joke. What did the mummy say to the detective? What did the mummy say to the detective?
Come on, Gary, you can
Let's-
get this.
Let's wrap up this case. We're going to wrap it up now. In closing, I told you about the Celts, why Halloween and so on was considered magical, and about the Roman and Christianity influence. I will give you part 2 of this speech next week, and I hope you have enjoyed learning a little bit about the roots of Halloween.
Right.